Nation of Fit in 10, welcome to day 15, and numbers have been sent out to you this morning. That is your macros. Macros more than likely change for you, as well as your heart rate numbers, so have to take a look at those. Reminder, I really want you to try to be within 10% of your macros on a daily basis. So this requires pre-planning and pre-preparing your food. Get acquainted with these protein-strong foods you enjoy, carbohydrate-strong foods you enjoy, and to a lesser degree, fats. And I say to a lesser degree because we tend to get fat through other foods. Not always. Certainly it'll add in a little bit of fat, but it won't take very much, typically speaking. Yesterday I talked about carbohydrates, I talked about starch and sugar, and essentially starches are just chains of sugar. And typically it takes a little more energy, a little more time to break down starches, and this is why often we say to avoid sugars, because sugars on their own will quickly raise your blood sugar levels. Of course, when we have things like fiber and fat and protein, with sugar, or starch for that matter, we slow down the absorption of the carbohydrate, and this is a good thing. This helps us become more insulin sensitive. It's good for our pancreas. It's good for prevention of type 2 diabetes. It's good for lowering our fasting glucose, our fasting insulin levels. All good stuff for our health, okay? I didn't talk about fiber yet. So essentially, fiber is in the category of carbohydrates because it has essentially the same chemical structure as a starch. That is, it's a chain of sugars, with the exception that we do not possess the enzymes to break down the starch. So while chemically it is a carbohydrate, most starch we really don't get any caloric value out of. And I'll talk about this in a little bit more detail in a second. What are the two types of fiber? Because primarily there are two types of fibers. We've got things like insoluble. We've got foods out there that contain insoluble fiber as well as soluble fiber. So some examples of fibers include things like lentils and nuts and oats, and sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts and broccoli and turnips and carrots and apples and flaxseed, sunflower seeds. Now, some of these contain more soluble than insoluble, but some of these do contain insoluble. There are other examples like berries. Berries are a really good source of fiber. Berries are actually a great source of carbohydrate just because they're so high in different isoflavonoids, different antioxidants, really. Anyways, great source of fiber, berries are. When it comes to insoluble fiber, this is a fiber that essentially just goes right through us. When it comes to, so we ingest it goes through our intestinal system, it goes through the large, our large intestine or colon, and we expel it out. It really just acts as a laxative. But when it comes to soluble fiber, this acts as a little bit different. And soluble fiber essentially gets taken up by the gut bacteria in the large intestine, and it gets converted to short-chain fatty acids. And these short-chain fatty acids have many health-promoting benefits in the human body, which maybe I'll talk about tomorrow. Somebody had posted about a study on fiber and how there was, I think it was mentioned, 22% risk reduction in death, I think, at least in men. The only problem with these meta-analyses or these large studies is they're all essentially association or correlation. And what they don't take into account is confounding variables like healthy user bias. So, quite often when we're looking at people who intake more fiber, these are the same type of people who are like myself. I think about fiber every day, but I also think about, counting my calories or my macros, more specifically, being very, very conscious of that. What types of foods, am I eating? How much am I exercising? What types of exercise am I doing? My sleep habits, don't drink alcohol, I don't smoke. The list goes on and on and on and on. So when we're looking at people who are eating a sufficient amount of fiber, typically speaking, if not always, but typically speaking, these are going to be more health conscious people. This is why they're getting more fiber, or at least they're thinking about the right foods to eat. This is how they're getting more fiber. So to just say that we're going to pick this one variable and we're going to attribute it, it's very, very hard to say. Now, that's not to say that fiber, we don't know if fiber has any benefit. Of course, we know it has some benefit. It's certainly going to have some benefit towards, I would think, longevity and quality of life, etc. There's a lot of benefit from fiber, which I think we'll talk a little bit about tomorrow, especially with short chain fatty acids. But let's get to the message of the day. That's all I wanted to say on that. Nothing wrong with those. Nothing wrong with presenting this study, but I just feel that those. I don't want to say I just feel. It's not really a feeling. It's just this type of data is very, very weak in terms of saying that it's this variable as opposed to all the other things that are contributing to somebody's lifespan. Okay, let's get to the message of the day. And today's message is, yeah, I know, you heard me say it before, but I'm going to say it again and again and again and again and again, because this is really numero uno, and it's consistency, consistency, consistency. And I could keep saying consistency. Obviously, it's consistency of the right things, and this is what really matters. It's about these daily habits. It's not about making a wild change in a month. That's not what it's about. What quickly comes will quickly go. Think about building these lifestyle habits, which we're doing. And, hopefully your exercise and at least the way you're looking at food and the choice of food will change with time. We'll build some habits out of this challenge. Maybe food will become a habit of yours, or maybe it won't. But at the very least, you're going to walk away from this challenge having a much better understanding of what foods contain what and in what amounts. And you'll make better choices moving forward, especially when we're trying to gauge our caloric intake or what, as I mentioned, what foods contain what. Consistency, consistency, consistency. Consistency of the right things, right? In order to be consistent, at least in this challenge, we've got to plan and prepare the food, right? We've got to be within, as I mentioned, I failed to mention this in the beginning, which I wanted to mention, which I'm kind of going off topic about this, but we really want to try to get within 10% of our daily macros. So remember that, within 10% of your macros. This requires planning and preparing, which is going to help support your level of consistency, right? The consistency with your level of macros on a daily basis. Of course, your macros are changing as the challenge goes on, but they're not going to change wildly. They will not change wildly. That's not what this is about. This is more about being being consistent with something reasonable, okay? Positive energy, positive vibes, believe in yourself, and for the love of God, give some gratitude, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow. See you guys.